moving to oneness. Nourishing curiosity. Embracing differences. Becoming one.
Sometimes you want to give up, but there's something that keeps you moving forward. And today I want to explore one possibility with my wonderful guest who is now here in life helping so many with his podcast, with his coaching, to find the beauty in life and to make an even better life out of each situation. So everyone, I'm Meilin Ehlke, the host of the Moving to Oneness podcast, and please welcome with me David Chametzky. Hello, how are you, David?
My friend, thank you so much for the opportunity. We've gotten to know each other a little bit, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your podcast.
Yes, thank you. You know, you're over the ocean, the Atlantic, and so you're early in the morning. I really appreciate that. And we spoke before I was invited to your podcast. And I remember at that time, there's something really fascinating, and you got it right behind you. Everyone who's listening via audio, I'll try to explain what I see. It's a circle, and within the circle is a cartoon of David holding a bat, right? Like a baseball bat in his hand with a huge grin, and then these nice sunglasses, and giving him a little edge. But what is really interesting, he has three symbols on the bat. One is a peace sign, one is a heart, and one is a bolt, like a thunderbolt. These are really three symbols, David, that you don't know that are important to me, and we'll speak about it. But on the outside rim, there is Uncle Dave, with many people call him, because whenever you'll see it during this show, you will hear him. First of all, his voice makes you feel so comfortable. David, your voice is just so soothing. And you're an uncle for anyone who comes in to your world. And this is a beautiful gift. That's one of the things I love so much about you, right? You take anyone into your big embrace, and people know they're safe and they can be honest with you, and that you will take care of them in a way all of their life. That vibe it comes over. And then he has written peace and love and bring a bat. So this is also his title of his beautiful podcast. So maybe before we go on and chat about your life, give a short moment about what is so interesting about your podcast.
Well, it really is about peace and love. We all understand that and how we receive that for ourselves. And it's special, right? Whatever brings you peace. Again, before the recording started, we were talking about your cat and peace and things like that. There's so many things that bring us peace, and what brings us joy and love. It becomes so powerful. It really, we know what it brings us inside. Sometimes we hide it. Sometimes we don't see it or allow it to come out. And that's what the podcast is about, is to meet people like yourself and others who will share and tell us about their peace and love. Because when I talk about the podcast, there's a spiritual part of us, in all of us, no matter what you think about religion. This is not a religion. It's spiritual. It's that spark within ourselves. And that's what peace is, that spiritual part. There's a motivational. We all have stories. How we get past those stories, that's so important. And then there's a little perspirational, because if we just talk about it, it doesn't get us anywhere. We could sit on a mountain. You need to do the things that you need to do and move
Mm,
forward. And that's really what peace, love, and bring a bat is about. The bring a bat is not about American baseball or definitely not about violence. It's about knowing your non-negotiables. It's about knowing the boundaries that you need to do. And if you've ever swung a baseball bat, you also need the perfect balance. You could hit it off balance and you could be off balance, but when you hit it with a real balanced swing, you can knock it out of the park and continue to soar.
yeah, I love that the harmony and balance to hit that a ball in the right moment and it flies, and that sense one has within. It's probably in many sports, right? When you're so within yourself in the flow that it is in a way like a rush, but they and that rush comes, I think. Uh, I recently had tried a little golf. My son plays golf,
Mhm.
but I so when once in a while there's a ball that flies exactly where it should be, where I intended. I was totally loose. There was no cramping everywhere or using strength. Just the energy of the body, very smooth. And I can imagine it's also in baseball as in other sports. This one moment when we're in tune with everything existing. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is.
no, that's exactly right. I call it the sweet spot, or many people call it
Mhm.
the sweet spot. But that's the same thing. Is it even in golf? You can have a perfect swing, but if you miss it just a little bit, your hip moves a little bit out of the way. You become a little unaligned.
Yeah.
Then you need to get realigned, and that's the power of what we do is bringing realignment back into ourselves to swing the baseball bat, to be in balance with who we are. I mean, I talk a lot about being our most authentic selves, and that's where growth really lives, is when you can really be authentic. I mean, that's why. So the one part about that people might not have noticed yet is that green or teal is a very grounding color, and that's one of my colors. So I always try to, when I'm doing presentations and things like that, have teal. I want everybody to be grounded. And but a lot of people go, "Oh, I have a green suit." So in that logo you talked about with my
Yeah.
podcast it's me in a green suit. I have a green suit. Every time I come out, I feel like it's a Superman suit. I put it on and I feel, yeah, that's who I am. And
Mm.
that's really what we all should have, that super person suit. It doesn't have to be Superman. Where you put it on, or that for special occasions, because life is a special occasion. And once we get into that opportunity, that's really important to get into that and feel our most authentic selves, because that's why that oneness that we talk about,
Yeah.
is really that authentic self of who you are, what brings you peace and love, to bring you into that oneness, into that ability to feel authentic, no matter how strange it might look. The green suit for me, but it's who I am, and I love it.
Yeah, it's so funny, everyone. I picked a shirt today. It has flowers on it, and there are many of the colors that are in David's logo. And interesting, I learned from a beautiful woman, Eliana Chauli. She talk and teaches what colors suit you. And teal is one color that suits all of us. It's really fascinating. And clothing, I believe, and picking it from your soul, from within, it has to be like a second skin. It is medicine. Yeah, for me, it has to be soft, and in the moment, whenever I pick some, or even when I buy something, it is aligned with me, right? And it just happened. Funny, it just happened on Saturday. I was somewhere with my son. Was again on a tournament, and so I went into the store. Normally, I don't buy anything, but it is like a piece of clothing attracted me. It was a teal color sweater, which has a little like a windbreaker on the inside, and very soft. And I thought, wow, this thing pulled me in. I did buy it. It did fit. It did suit me, and I felt good in that second I put it on. So it is this follow in our instinct, our movement, even where we go shopping. Most often, when we find ourselves connected to everything that exists, clothing attracts us. Yeah, and
No,
that
definitely.
is fascinating. And we have to go shopping. We are being pulled. So when are the moments when you're pulled in to go into the city or town or wherever you are? I was in a tiny village to
That's
get
one of
whatever
those
is
things.
needed.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I always say. There really are no accidents. You know,
Yeah,
it's our subconscious, and that's some of the things that make us our most authentic self is when we trust our subconscious versus our conscious. Our conscious is trying to protect ourselves. Our ego. Walking away from our ego. That's a lesson that we'll probably talk about. I used to be
yeah,
an ego-driven person, and now I'm not. Uh, in fact, I just came up with I was talking to somebody, and they said,
share it.
yeah, sure. No, your ego is not your amigo. And I
Oh,
was like,
that's a good one.
yeah, I loved it. I just heard it yesterday, truthfully. And I was like, oh, I love it because I thought my amigo was my ego, that, I had to be this type of person. And one of the things I enjoy talking about is mental health. And I've been a mentor, coach for a long time, but I wasn't at one point about 3 years ago. I wasn't handling it right, and it led
Yeah,
me down a very dark path.
you wanted to
Oh,
leave this beautiful planet.
yeah,
Then you decided not to.
it was all ego driven.
Mhm.
It was all me. I'm doing this. Instead of looking at a lot of things, and I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't using the resources. I know, you and I have spoken about meditation and peace. Again, peace and love. What brings you those resources to help you reset yourself?
Yeah.
And for me, when I wasn't doing that, and I know that now, when I don't do that, that's not something that ever leads me to a place I want to be in or a person I want to be. So I always make sure that every day there's an opportunity for reset. That's why when you say, is it okay to start early in the morning where I am? And I'm like, I'm up early. I get up, I make sure I have a routine. I meditate. I try to have some quiet time. So there's
Mhm.
a lot of pieces to what we all should do, not just, you know, and find it differently.
Yeah,
When we say, yeah, when we say we don't have enough time, we all have the same amount of time. We might have other things that pull us in other challenges, but we can always reset ourselves in 5 or 10 minutes, and that's one of the things I teach people, at least when they leave after meeting me, if they can learn how to reset themselves wherever they are, in the car, waiting for the picking up the children when you're doing that, all these places where we think we don't have time. I mean, really, without getting too, I guess, personal, but we all sit down at one point for a little while and we can have that ability to reset ourselves in that moment and, really give ourselves the permission to relax and make sure we take care of ourselves. I didn't understand the value of it, though I was helping people through lots of challenges. Now I understand it, and I've become so much better because of the experience of trying to kill myself. And since then, my life has grown tremendously. And, I was sharing with you offline that recently I had been going through a lot of personal challenges in my life. And 3 years ago, there's no way I could have been as calm as I am right now, as centered as I am right now. I would have been like, "Oh, I need something else." All the things that was carrying. And I guess, everybody has gone through this. Everybody's gone shopping in their life, and you wanna get all the bags in your life back into the house and organized quickly. But we might, and then there's always what happens is a bag breaks or it hurts our hand. Maybe if we took a little less time to carry all the bags and took one more trip, and it would be an easier trip. We'd be less angry that the bags are heavy. And that's what it is in life also. The bags of our lives, the challenges that we face, how we carry them and how we walk forward.
Yeah, the word cramming in came into my head while you were speaking. We're so taught to cram things in, to go faster, to do this and to do more, but it's very unhealthy for us. It is important, you mentioned that so beautifully, to sit and also there when you were talking about resetting. I look what is so beautiful outside when I'm waiting for my son at school, right? There is a beautiful flower, or a person walks by with a skip, a child, or whatever season it is. Can you see what is flowering, what color the leaves are, or the sky, right? We can zone off in a way very fast and our breathing then changes very quickly, and that's a reset. So give maybe people also a few examples that you used yourself. You did share a few, but after you decided, there must have been something really strong that made you come come back, or I should say, not die, right? There
I
is something
know.
within that moment where you said, nope, this is not the right way to go. I have to do a U-turn, David. And this is something very special about you, right? And I probably also found yourself in that moment in a much deeper observation and a new way, and you looked at yourself in a new way and found out new parts of you. So how did you find those, and how did they open up new ideas to give yourself time to, in a way, reevaluate and become aware of how beautiful your wisdom is? Because now when you share, people just love you. They soak you up.
Well, what it was is it was it was a culmination of a lot of things that were going
Mhm.
on in my life, and so for about 36 hours, I was in active, I guess, danger to myself mode, and during that time, I believe there was a divine intervention,
Mhm.
and by that I heard a voice that said it's not your time, and that
Oh.
you need to go talk to people. You need to tell people your story. You need to share people your story. And when I was at the beginning of the 36 hours, I was determined this was it. I had a plan. I wrote 50 letters to people uh who've
Wow.
never seen the letters. I've thrown out the letters, but of why I was doing this, how much I loved them, and I felt my love was why I needed to do that. Um and I was prepared. I was calm. It wasn't, I wasn't walking around. I was in one of the calmest moments I was at. I felt I was in a really good place.
Hmm.
And it sounds weird. Some people are scared, and it is a scary thing. But I was comfortable. And at some point, I came to the realization, okay, this didn't work, right? So and I tried a few different things. So like it really, when you fail, you really fail. But that's good because I learned a lot of things. And when I came to the realization that I was going to be here, and I wasn't prepared to do some of the other things, then I go, okay, now what do we do? This is
Mhm.
going to be not so easy, but I said, but your resources. And I went back to all the resources. I put myself back into therapy. I wasn't seeing a therapist. I was utilizing. So that was one of the things I utilized, is going back to therapy. I think there's a huge value for therapy and things like that. And I, again, because I've been a mentor and a coach, I've helped people through challenges, and as stressful challenges, as well as really tough obstacles that other people might not have been able to succeed with, or because it really is who you meet. You sometimes can hear the same thing multiple times, but you hear it the right way. You keep talking about my safe space. I really pride myself now. I might not have always had that safe space, and not purposely. We all go through things, and again, when you're feeding the ego, you might be feeding it the wrong way, right? There's two wolves in our lives, right? There's that metaphor. There's the good wolf and the bad wolf, and
Mm-hmm.
which one do you feed more? And if it when it's with ego, it really isn't. Now it's not about ego for me. When the people who I sit with and I assist, it's all about them. And the biggest thing I teach is how to reset. So you asked me about the reset, and the
Mm-hmm.
quickest way to do it is just by rubbing your hands slowly.
Mm.
And by rubbing your hands slowly, biologically, we'll start to create delta waves. And delta waves are those brain waves that we use when we go to sleep. So it's not going to put you to sleep. It can, it'll relax you enough. You take a few deep breaths and rub your hands. You will reset yourself. You'll allow yourself to be entered into the moment. That's really the power of a lot of things, is just being in that moment, being in that oneness. And once we do that, that's where the power really starts to really explode. Because once we can calm ourselves, we can then learn how to do things differently. We can, if you're working with somebody, you can figure out the right ways to overcome the obstacles that you saw. Like with me, I saw a lot of obstacles. I was told by some people some really nasty things, and I believed it.
Mm.
Now you can still say some nasty things, and I'll have a different uh response. Maybe I'm still the person who I was years ago. Okay, physically, definitely, I'm not, anything differently. Mentally, no, not so much. I really, you could say something bad about me, okay, and that's your opinion. That's not fact. You can do whatever you want, but that also shows. It's called, among the things that I like to talk about is Ho'oponopono. And
Yeah.
that's a Hawaiian prayer. And for those who don't know about it, it's a Hawaiian prayer. It's simple, 4 lines. Please forgive me. Well, hold on. Yeah. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you. And thank you. And what it is, it's all talking about yourself. There's a lot of times when people are talking to you or telling you what you are or who you should be, they're really saying it to themselves. And that's why the grounding and the starting everything with ourselves is so important. So people can still talk about me and they can think what they want to think, but I know who I am. And when I notice that I've done something wrong, like Maya Angelou says,
Mm.
once you notice that you've done something wrong, if you learn to not do it again, then that's growth. If you do it again, it's a choice. And that's really what it comes down to. And that's what I did is I sat in some really dark places in my life and realized what I was guilty of, what I could have done better, how I could have said things better, how I could have experienced things better. And now I really do, even in the most um, painful situations, I still try to find the room of growth and the ability to really, find peace and love even in the worst situations. If somebody's yelling at me, uh, it doesn't always have to be about me.
Yeah.
Where I would feel defensive, I feel less defensive because I know who I am. I know the love I have, and I know the unconditional love. When we talk about love, we could say, "Oh, I love you because you're going to buy me a ring, you're going to buy me something, or what you're going to do for me." But unconditional love is, I love you. I could send you flowers. I could do whatever I want, and I'm not asking for a thank you. I'm not asking for love in return. I'm just asking for the energy of love to be received by you. And that's where a lot of us get caught up in that conscious protection. Oh, he's trying to get this, he's trying to get that. Just give it as
Mhm.
love or receive it as love, and it becomes so much more of a powerful thing.
That yeah, I'm gonna say I love that. No, you made a really a very interesting point, and this is something we're not taught in schooling how to be in relationship and to sink into ourselves and see that we are okay, and if we're in communication with someone else who is getting a little angry or they want to vent and they speak, you're right, a lot about themselves, even if they don't see something that you maybe could do better, they want that betterness in themselves as well, or they want to do it better with you together, and to expand in that state, right? If we're calm, then we can expand, and those words, we can let them go through our, or in our energy through our body, if we're in a much more expanded state and not in this tight defensive state. And then we can choose with which energy we want to communicate back, or maybe it's better anyway in a later moment, let it all come out and say, yeah, share more, what is really worrying you, what happened to you, right? And to ask these questions, why it came up, or why are they now speaking about it, what triggered it. And then we, so much can be solved easier if we're taught that most of the time, I would say, it's not about ourselves, and that we then also can look what the other person needs. And then also, if they see it in a little bit in our, then it's also a little bit in us, what can we change to soften everything. And that is very, very important. Yeah, this a judgment in a way, David, I think is anyway getting less and less. I see that in the younger generation. I don't know what your experience is. They don't judge others as much. If they communicate, they always say, "Oh, it's no problem," or "No worry," right? They don't even answer to things anymore, because it just goes past them. It goes through them. The new generation is, I think, more expanded. No, that I don't know. It's not a word, but in a more expansive state all the time. Anyway, also my generation, I'm in the 50s, right? We have still this defensiveness, that security. We're so taught, maybe from the wars before, be careful, la la la, and what do other things. And I love that the younger ones don't have that anymore.
Yeah, because we grew up. I mean, you and I are around the same age, and we
Yeah.
grew up in a different world. We grew up with parents. I mean, again, it's some of that generational things that we hold on to that we don't know. I just had the conversation yesterday that our parents did the best they could. Now,
Yes.
they might not have made the best choices. They might not have done it the right way. I've said that about my dad, who I didn't have a great relationship with. But did he love me? 1000%. So it's by learning and doing things differently, and that's where I think the younger generation, or people like even ourselves, so who are open. I have friends who go, "Oh, stop talking about that stuff." I go, "Okay, if you don't like it, I'm not talking to you about it. It's okay. You don't like it. I don't push it. I don't say this is the only way to go, but it makes me feel good. And at the end of the day, it's all about me. If I'm peaceful within myself, I then can be peaceful within others as well. And it's a learning.
Yeah. So you're noticing you're becoming more and more in a peaceful state. Can you explain the difference? Because you have felt both, and I think that is a plus point for people that come to you as well, right? You have
Yeah.
experienced a lot. You have experienced, I'm going to call it this tightness, where it's like so strong and pushed together and strength, right? We also have, we're very powerful people. Everyone, and you hinted to that, so we can make that choice. Do we contract, dense things up, right? But then we become immovable, we become inflexible. And the moment we decide, sometimes we need it, yeah, for
Yeah.
certain reasons. But then for other reasons, we can also slowly open up. And then maybe we're not used to anymore the sensation and the feelings. You spoke to that too. Once you then open after this holding, maybe for months, years, or even decades, right? This tightness. And you have experienced that. And so the interesting is that recently you'd mentioned that also today, you went again through very strenuous times. You took on a load from even another family, um, and in that you stayed relaxed even though it was a lot. And how can you tell other people to be more peaceful in a state when a lot of responsibility, when the energy of a lot of problems come to be solved? Um, what can you tell people to do?
Go back to yourself. Really make time for yourself.
Mm.
That's the biggest part, because the outside world is always going to throw curveballs at us. We're going to, the pressures of life. But when you're able to sit there and reset yourself a little bit more, just breathe. You're very right about holding tight. When think about it when you're angry, it's that your body it gets tense, and that's why we have different. If you notice your body more, so you notice the tension in your neck, your
Mhm.
shoulders. Most people neck and shoulders, and stomach is another issue. But if you notice all these things that happen, being aware, and if you know that you're being aware of it, then find the resources to move forward. Go find a coach, a mentor, a therapist. There's lots of different ways to do things, and there's not one way for everybody. But what you do is you find the right resources, and I talk about it, about walking on a journey. We're all
Mhm.
on a journey. We're a path, and I call myself the pathfinder. So, not that I know the only path. There is not only one path. There's multiple paths. Uh, and but sometimes you need to walk with somebody. Sometimes you need to walk that eventually you find the path. You're there's a line in Dante's Inferno. In the middle part of my life, I found myself in a dark wood, and in the weirdest place, I found the light. You found your path, and that happened to me. Really, after I tried to kill myself, I was still in a very dark place. I was like, okay, I'm still here, so I have to live. I, wasn't happy about it. I didn't know that I didn't love myself at that point. One of the my acupuncturist, I walked in, and she goes, you seem to be struggling, and I know that's why you're here, and all this. And she goes, do you love yourself? And I had to think about it. And once you have to think about it, the answer is no. I didn't, and I started crying, and I was like, I don't. And I can honestly say that I do love myself. But in my dark place, when I'm on that dark wood with Dante's Inferno, I was attacked by somebody verbally, telling me I'm white trash, I'm a loser, I'm all these things. This is after they knew that I tried to hurt myself. Now, I cried. It hurt, 100%. But I also started thinking about, wow, that person must be in so much pain for themselves that they need to feel better about somebody. They need to do what they need to do. And that was the first time, and I've gotten that reflex, a lot stronger. In that, when people yell at you, they okay, you can take it internally. You don't have to hold on to it. Again, like holding the bags. It can go through you. It's an energy. Is it an energy that's going to serve you, or is it an energy that's not going to serve you? That's that tightness. Do I have to put up these walls? No. Is it about love? No. Then I can just go straight through me. Even love will go straight through me, but I can receive love if I choose it. You don't have to receive when somebody's talking bad about you, when somebody's giving you that negative energy. You don't have to receive it. You
Mhm.
have the power. You have that super person power to really just say, I don't receive that information, and that's okay.
Mhm. So that's in a way you're bold because that's the thunderbolt, right? And the thunder is also, if you look at the sky
Mhm,
and it comes down, it in a way it cracks through something, it opens up, it pierces in. We can also throw a thunder. I think sometimes I think about Zeus,
mhm,
right? He can use it, and we all can use it and throw it some ways. There is thickness. So I often think too, we can send a loving energy and peace energy that we sense or we know that exists
mhm,
to others, right? But we also have this energy to let it come through, or to meditate, or the sunshine, or someone who's you choose to speak with, if it's a coach or a friend, or maybe it is someone in the park, the person who don't, to be courageous, to open up. So that opens up, things can come out. Right. So the bold is your power, but you can also use the bold to open up yourself, to bring out what's in with you. And I think often, David, when we don't see what we bring, what our purpose is, why we're walking here on this earth, there's not so much concentration given on this, right? It is given more on what to do, what profession, and to make money. Some are lucky, they follow their passion. But so many, we're looking from a very young age, what do I love to do? And sometimes they're really these most simple things, about like bringing peace. But there's no monetary value on it. There's no monetary value on love, right? It is really interesting to see that so many then are struggling, that carry these energies, that carry this, or are these kinds of being who live that. And in a way, I think sometimes they're also then, because they're so different, or they're not valued so much like culture, it's the mental illnesses also appear. It's this constant tightening, or not understanding of what is going on and what they are seeing and sensing. It's a very big mix. Yeah, yes, you said there can be many different ways why mentally we chemical it can be too, right? But
Sure,
even
no,
chemical.
there's so many different ways, but when you talk about the lightning bolt, we have to remember that the power is within us.
Mhm.
Power is within us. So same like the peace and love. What might bring you peace and love might not bring me peace and love, and that's okay. We're
Yes.
individual, but the power is within each one of us to receive what we want to receive, accept what we want to accept. And, it really is a very powerful thing to know that it's all within us. The things that we want to do, or how we see things. Money doesn't solve everything. We can tell all the stories, right? Anthony Bourdain, the famous chef. There's so many people, Kate Spade, people who had great wealth and who still didn't find peace and love in their life. That doesn't mean they didn't have any, but they still felt that they needed to take their own life. And, I can't tell you. I can tell you why it was right for me, but I could also tell you, and I really want to highlight more, that the growth that my episode really took has brought me so much more. And by putting out the good energy, it takes a lot more energy. It takes no energy to be negative. If I say don't do something, that's the easiest thing to do, to not do something. If I say do something, or do something that you might not be doing regularly, it becomes hard to break the patterns that we had. But guess what? It's so powerful. And really, when I talk about everybody's idea, my mentoring program is called On the Path. And it sounds really easy, but PATH stands for Personal Attitude Towards Happiness. And and really, it's very personal. You have to know what you want. And sometimes people don't know what they want. I could even talk about my own mom. She had been a caregiver her whole life. And around the time my dad was transitioning at 72, I said, well, Ma, the great thing is you get to be who you want to be. And she looked at me with a stone face. She didn't know who she wanted to be. She had always assigned herself as somebody who took care of somebody else. She was a teacher. She was a professional. She was a friend, a mother, but she didn't really know who she was, because she always waited for people to tell her who she was, and which is very sad for somebody to live like that. And that's why we all need to really recenter ourselves and to know who we are. And if people don't like us, that's okay. You want to know,
Yeah.
and I never thought we could do that. One of the gifts that the pandemic gave me is I can now sit by myself. I could never do that. I always thought I needed X, I needed Y, but now I'm pretty comfortable being by myself in the peace and quiet of life.
Oh, this is really beautiful. This is I've learned that too. I'm someone who can sit. I need it sometimes even to be alone. That's when I'm creative, or I write, or I contemplate, or I don't do anything.
Mhm.
Yeah, but a being full of oneself. This is a very beautiful thing, and we're not taught that we already are so much, that we are everything, and that we understand everything that is around us. So, and that we don't need, right? We're so taught you need this. And you started with that when you were speaking about going shopping and filling those bags. And we have to cram in this information and that information, or this experience and that experience. But it is so simple. It is, we are already so much, because we're part of everything that exists, and everything exists is part of us. We have a connection to everything. And until we do not sit alone, or stand, or lie alone, or walk alone, or whatever, you really don't have the opportunity to find that out, to become aware of that. And also, I wanted to come back to that point with the tactile, right? Why is this so calming? Often we forget that we need to touch people, and we're taught to touch less and less. But then maybe ask other people if they want to be touched, or we can, massage our own body. We even neglect our own body or rub it, and it's so soothing for everything, right? And it blockages of energy, some of the Asians tap, or the more we touch or massage or rub ourselves, or that's why it's so comfortable to have a pet, or do an art, or use your hands in crafting, or touch outside a leaf, or the grass, or the stem, right? Or whatever you're sitting on, to become aware that we are also people beings that need to be in contact physically with something else, or also to do things physically that you enjoy, that I enjoy, that we enjoy.
Oh yeah, it's using all your five senses. There's so many different things. That's why cooking it is good. Because it brings you back memories.
Mhm.
That's really what it is. It's we encode so much in our lives. Touch is so important, and you're right. Touching. I mean, the part of that technique that I was talking about with rubbing your hands is
Yeah.
called the havening. It's called the havening technique. And I'm one of the first 100 people in the world. I'm actually number 79, I think, in the world who learned this technique. And it helps you through lots of different traumas and opportunities for growth. And when
Mhm.
you use it, you do it, but it also is about touching it. So it's not only rubbing your hands. There's a way to do rubbing your shoulders or even your forehead that it starts generating these delta waves. And then what do you do with it? You can optimize your brain and remove the things that you don't need to do. When you ask me about what do I think now, uh, I think much quicker. I react much
Mhm.
slower, or I react just as fast but differently. People don't I don't knee jerk, you know, because a lot of the things that we do are tied to our amygdala, which is our fight or flight response system. We have to react quickly, and especially in a world like today, where we feel if I don't respond to a text immediately, that person's gonna be angry at me. And I'm always telling you, when we communicate, I'm like, whatever you get to me is fine. Unless I say I
Uh,
need
so,
an answer now, then I need an answer now,
no,
right?
that's a good way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, I explained it, and to use a United States reference, and maybe the same thing is like this in European football. So in American football, a lot of times the rookie, the person who's starting his first year is saying the game works very quickly. And but then by the end of the season, they've already been trained for a full year. They know the game, they say slows down. It doesn't slow down. It's the same speed it's always been, but through training of yourself, you're able to then react quicker. You're able to react better. And those are the really powerful parts, is learning. That's that optimizing your brain. Once we optimize our brain and learn how to be more quiet within ourselves, react differently from things when we notice that maybe we acted wrong. We acted some way that didn't feel right for people. I know one of my biggest challenges is, while you commend myself, my safe space, but I'm also a protector. That if you try to go after any of my family verbally or anything like that, I can get, you know, much differently. And that still is one of those things. I'm just like, no, you do not mess with who's mine. Where they go, Mama Bear. Look, Papa Bear probably also isn't who you want to mess with either. That was one of my nicknames growing up, the Bear.
Yeah, I had that on my tongue when I was introducing and talking about the uncle. I didn't say it, but it was there.
Yeah, a girlfriend used to say you could either be a polar bear, which is a very violent, like it's protective, right? It looks cute, or you could be a really teddy bear, and it depends. And I'm learning much more to be the teddy bear, but I still have that polar bear, grizzly bear within me, because if you cross that line, if you really hurt anybody who I love, and we'll have some words, there's challenges, and that's okay.
Mhm.
You always
Yeah,
want.
that bear strength also, right? It brings confidence. So it is also, if you're strong and you're physically fit, that's another thing, right? Nutrition, all of this also gives you this calmness and comfort, because you can be rather calm if you feel comfortable in your body, if you don't have so much pain, and if we're in our optimal state. And a bear has to be a rather good state. And also a bear, he is also alert, and he can eat so many different things, and from a fish or berries. I think that's really interesting, that are very fine and delicate. And so we can see that we can do, all of us, so much more in different ways, even though we think it's big. If you go then and do little pieces and little steps, you get to that calmness as well.
Well, and if you can continue this metaphor on bears, is think about a bear. They hibernate, but they prepare themselves. So a lot of our lives are, if we prepare ourselves properly, right? We think it's crazy that the bears hibernate for 6 months, or through the winter, and well, they prepared themselves. They ate what they needed to eat. It's again finding the balance that works for them, and they rested. Right, self-care is so important, and that's really another way to look at things. You could be a bear in your life, but you need to hibernate right. You need to eat the right things. The reason why I was in Yosemite National Park. It's here in the United States. It's a beautiful park, and they have a bear problem. But what the problem really is not only that the bears come close to people. The reason why you need to hide your food is because generally, if we come to camp, we might have all the snacks and stuff like that. The bear will eat it. One, it's not healthy for the bear. It's not healthy for us either. But I'm guilty as charged. I do eat that. The really problem, they only can fill their belly. They only know fill their belly, and then that's it. But if they need to hibernate and they've already ate junk food, it's like much like us. If we eat too much junk food, we don't feel full. We enjoyed the food. We enjoy the sweetness, the salts, the whatever, but we really weren't fully nourished. And that's what we need to do, is nourish ourselves in each one of those senses that we talk about. In our mind, we need to see the sights that are beautiful to us. Sunsets, sunrises, darkness, if you need. I've learned that I don't know if you've ever been in one of those deprivation tanks. There's the
No.
floating tanks. Again, it was one of those things I was like, I don't know about this. It's dark, it's this, it's that. Wow. It was incredible. So you don't know until you've tried it, but you need to also find that right balance, because as being a bear in yourself is finding how to get through that hibernation period that we all need. We need that rest period, a true rest.
Yeah, this is really beautiful. The rest is what gives strength, and it gives a reset time. As you've mentioned, it gives us time to contemplate, to observe what is around us, and who we are. So all of your clients are very lucky to have you. How can the new people that heard you or saw you now connect with you, David?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm on social media, so it's David Chametzky, and I'll spell that last name. It's a little scary sounding. Chametzky. So I'm on all social media as David Chametzky. As who else would I be? I have my website, davidchametzky.com, and I'd love them to give a listen on the podcast. I have
Yeah.
guests every week. There's a few episodes that I speak like this. But generally, I bring on guests because I want to hear everybody else's point of view. I want to know, and I want to allow people to be found, because we all need to find a resource. I'm not the resource for everybody. I can be the resource for lots of people. I enjoy working with people. I have lots of new things coming out this year, books and programs. But it really is, you need to find the right person who you want to work with. And when I talk about, there's so much that you talk about, that there's a phoenix within ourselves. We rise from our ashes. But how I end my podcast is, I wish everybody peace and love. And when you need to bring a bat, just swing for your sweet spot and knock it out of the park.
So everyone, isn't that the best advice for your day, for your week, for your life that David just mentioned? So I also wish you to find your sweet spot, to find the balance, the harmony within you, and you have us both to ask for advice, or if you want to share something out of your life with us and the world. So hit us up. Thank you, David, for being on the Moving to Oneness podcast show. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope many more times we'll speak and see each other. And to you out there in the world, open up, be that bear, and take time for rest. Find your calmness again, your sweet spot, and bring out that bolt that you carry, and share it with the world and make it an even more beautiful place. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.